You guys are welcome to come up and tell us what's on your mind. Request a mic and ask any questions. I see Martha. I'm going to throw you a mic, Martha. You need to come up here. Go ahead, SR71.
Thank you, Colonel, and thank you all for attending today. Those here on Spaces and on Rumble. One thing I can say is this is a rare moment with the Colonel, so take advantage when you get the opportunity. Anyway, if you all haven't watched the latest with Colonel Towner and, of course, Warhamster, kudos to Warhamster for what he did in your last session with concerning secret societies. That just blew me away.
It really
haven't had time to write it up yet, but I will post it and write it up.
Yeah, it really was a great way of displaying all of the information. Obviously they always say a picture's worth 1,000 words. When you look at that graph of the number of people out of Skull and Bones that ended up as ambassadors, secretary of states, presidents, congressional members, it does go a long way to illustrating this international syndicate's reach and the people kind of behind the screen that manipulates everything. And obviously, what we didn't do, but what I have done in our other research, like Operation Gladio, with people like Porter Goss, where he's CIA, and then he ends up being appointed a congressional member, runs for reelection, and he's the guy that crafted the Patriot Act behind the scenes, and ushers it through Congress, because guess where he sits? On the Intelligence Committee. And then he's rewarded with this bull crap and flies underneath the radar, almost everyone's radar, and ends up afterwards as the CIA director as his reward for taking our rights away. So, not that he was Skull and Bones, but it's those people operating behind the scenes. And if you go back, and I did a couple of them of the Skull and Bones that were in Congress at different points, pivotal things were happening, just as what Warhamster illustrated with the ambassadors. Every single one of those ambassadors were assigned to a country where crazy overthrows, destabilization, those types of activities were going on, because that's what they're there for. And you just see a pattern over and over again. So, yeah, kudos to him. He did an absolutely fabulous job. Um, and I do have to share this experience with you guys too. Last night I was on Nino Rodriguez's show, and I don't know how that plays out, because some of the stuff he does is recorded and he releases it to everyone. He only releases it to his paid viewers originally. But it was basically a round table with just me and him. And it was open mic where anybody could come up and ask a whole bunch of different questions. And it was a very interesting show. So I'm hoping everyone takes the opportunity to come up. I see Travis down there. Travis is an amazing wealth of knowledge as well, always posting some very interesting add-ons to things that I post. So Renee, all you guys, come up and ask some questions. DC, how are you today?
Hello, is this thing on?
It is.
All right, it's working. I'm good. How are you, Colonel?
I'm great.
Thank you for shooting me a mic.
Sure. I'm glad you could join us. How's things going with you? What's up with you? I noticed you just started your own podcast. Tell everybody about that.
Started it 2 weeks ago. I just did my second show this week, and it's going pretty good. I'm getting the hang of it, so it's a lot of fun. I go through my content that I put out during the week, which is a lot of decodes. I also go through some of the headlines. This coming week, I will be doing my first interview with QAG, and my show is on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific.
And for those who don't know QAG, I repost him all the time. He does yeoman's work on exposing pedophiles primarily. Can you tell us a little bit about him? I know you know him a lot better than I do.
Yeah, absolutely. QAG has the website qag.news, which is where you can, it's an aggregator. You can follow along with everybody's Truth Social posts as they come in live. It's also a great spot for looking at Q drops if you're interested in that. The site also has the ability to be able to correlate the timestamps or whatnot with the Truth Social posts with Q drops. QAG also is posting every day about the constant and massive amount of arrests that are taking place with the child traffickers, the pedophiles, and all of these criminals that are being exposed due to the inept regime that was here when Biden was around. So QAG is doing a lot of really good work keeping everyone up to date on these arrests because, a lot of people say out there, nothing is happening. Nothing is happening. Well, if you're paying attention, there is a lot happening. So,
Yeah, and obviously ICE is playing a critical role in. And now, of course, QAG does all of the arrest, and unfortunately, a good percentage of them are legal residents of the United States. But a good portion of them are here illegally as well. And he does a really good, and he always has all of the links to the actual news article. He gives you a concise synopsis of it. So yeah, he is doing amazing work. So that's going to be a very interesting article. The guy's amazing. Like from a computer programming background, very, very smart. He's been on several private Zoom calls, and I'm just always amazed at him and his, what would you call it? Spirit of trying to make a difference in the world. He just has a wonderful attitude and a tremendous work ethic. So that's going to be a great interview. Congratulations.
thank you very much.
So, what made you decide to start doing your own podcast?
Well, I think it was just kind of the evolution of things. I'm doing these posts that I do, and I know a lot of people in here probably aren't Q people, but I mainly focus on decoding these messages from Trump and Scavino, General Flynn, and whoever else. And it just seemed like the next step in the evolution of what I do. So in order to help explain how I come to these conclusions and what they mean, it's a lot easier to explain it when you're talking about it as opposed to just simply writing out the post. And of course, there are a lot of people online that do this kind of thing. A lot of people add their own opinions and theories as to what they mean. Like they'll say, oh, the military is doing this, or some clone has been taken out. I don't do that. I just simply find the message and I try to keep it as realistic as possible so that it's much, much easier for people to understand. One thing, a lot of people out there, they don't understand of course, the mainstream media did a wonderful job at making Q look like this completely batshit crazy thing. The thing is what people need to understand is that, secret messages have been being hidden for hundreds and hundreds of years by militaries around the world. And of course, the bad guys do it all the time. Q was teaching us in order, how to expose these things and show people you can do this. And if I wanted to create a back channel to the public to keep people up to date on what is taking place in the world without exposing too much and going over past, national security stuff, which is, again, Q's posts explain all this. The decoding would be the best and easiest way to do it. Now, the only problem is that you have to have people who are, legitimately wanting to help and not further some sort of QAnon message, which is, the movement was taken over a long time ago by people who wanted to muddy the water and flood the information sphere with the information that is just, is not relevant. And so, the trick was, if you were going to try and do this, you had to hope for at least certain people out there who are going to try and be honest about it. And I try to be as honest about it as I possibly can be.
Well, and that was kind of obviously when I first came across anyone talking about Q, I was obviously curious because I'm just a naturally curious person. And I found the entire idea kind of far fetched. So, of course, I had to do my own research and started following a few people that had gotten very involved in it, like Truth Hammer, Beer in the Parade, and a Stormy Patriot Joe, only to find out he lives right down the road from me, and a few of the others. And I noticed that the guy that I had followed for a long time, Brian Cates, would never talk about it. And so I found Praying Medic and watched all of his videos, and that made me even more curious. So I had to go read what was going on myself. And what I noticed, and again, I'm an impartial observer. I don't, at that time, this was 2019, it was long past the beginning of it. And again, I was very skeptical. The very first thing that made me intrigued about it, from it being a real thing, was the amount of pretenders that came out of the woodwork trying to co-opt it. And you just talked briefly about that, but there were a lot of them. And when you did the research on those people, many of those people had some very nefarious ties, as opposed to the people that were actually going, hey, we found this thing. We don't really know what it is, but here's a whole bunch of puzzles, solve them. When you looked into those people like Stormy Patriot Joe, they had real jobs. They went to work. And they weren't these other kind of living in your basement kind of people, with one of which had intelligence ties that I found. Those are the people that were immediately thrust into the limelight to do exactly what you were saying and try to discredit it. That made me more interested, because if it was some psyops in a bad way, they wouldn't have expended resources to try to discredit it. And that's kind of my take on that whole thing. Again, I don't go into any. I'm not even. I love puzzles, but what I found very interesting about it is through you guys on the quote unquote boards, all of the tools that you were using in order to solve some of the puzzles were things I'd never even heard of, like 10i, and I didn't know anything about archive.org, and you guys were finding all of this stuff, and I'm like, well, that's very interesting. How come people don't, know? Now, of course, everybody's heard of archive.org, but almost no one back in that period of time knew it. No one was doing research. So there is second and third order effects. Even if you don't buy into it, it has empowered so many other people to start asking questions and doing their own research and asking for the proverbial sauce when people post crap on, which no one ever used to do. And I find that amazing.
Yeah, for the first year when I first found Q, I just paid attention as much as I could and went through, because I didn't find Q until January of 2020. And so Q had already been posting for a few years. So what I did was I immediately, and of course, again, like I was a pretty hardcore gamer, always been into puzzles and always been into conspiracy theories kind of thing, the JFK stuff. So it was right up my alleyway. And I'll give you a little bit of background here. My wife and I were married in 2014, but we met in 2013 online in a video game. And we were actually discussing about the upcoming presidential election of Obama. And we knew what was happening with Obama. and how bad things were getting. And so, when we got married, we decided, she was living in Florida and I'm up here in Canada in northern Alberta working in the oil fields. And I was like, well, you know what, if the world is going to go to hell in a little while here, come up here and live here. We're in the middle of farmland. We have everything we need. So, we thought we'd have a better shot at it. And, we really didn't understand the depth, of course, of, the things that we're finding out now, this 16-year plan. We just had a bad feeling. So we knew something was coming. And of course, when I did find Q, a lot of the information that I'd already kind of knew about was in those drops, along with a ton of information that was brand new to me. So going through them, like I said, for the first year, up until I'd say July, August of 2020, I wasn't decoding anything or putting out any posts. I was just more or less paying attention to what was happening.
You were absorbing it.
Yes. And I was learning as much as I could, watching other people do what they were doing, like Joe M and CJ Truth and Stormy Joe, Real Abs. And I was watching these guys and I was fascinated by it. So then I started to get into it myself. Of course, I was a really small account and this was pre-purge. So, when the purge came on January the 8th, I was one of the first ones gone. I think Trump and them were gone within like 30 seconds to a minute. And then my account was gone. So I moved over to Gab and another platform, and I was trying to help out over there. But again, you don't really get a lot of reach over there unless you're propped up, so to speak. So when the opportunity came back to come back to X, when Elon bought the platform, I immediately came back. But I took a year off to go do a off-grid living thing in the Rocky Mountains. No power, no water, just in case something was to happen. I wanted to make sure that my wife and I and our youngest son, who is now 20 years old, that we were able to do this. And this was back in 2022 to 2023. So I took a year off where I wasn't really very active on social media, but I was learning a lot about stuff that I really wanted to know. I really wanted to know if, we had what it took to do that kind of thing. And of course we did. We raised animals. We built everything we needed. So it was a great opportunity. And then, outside circumstances, we had to come back into town. So we came back and I immediately got re-involved in the movement. And, here we are today. So I've been pretty lucky. I've had a really great opportunity to do this. And I've made a lot of really good friends that have helped me along the way. And, I'm not going to say that this is all me because I believe this is a team effort. So.
Yeah. And just so that you guys know, there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes. I first came across DC on a Friday night Zoom and was fascinated with the story. So best of luck to you on your new adventure. And there's so many good people that want our country to be free of this international syndicate's grip. And it's just an amazing time to be involved right now with exposing the things that has happened that we didn't know about and has been done in our name. And so thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Sure. Renee, what's going on with you?
Hey there. Hey, everybody. Working as usual, so pardon me, multitasking maverick at the moment. But yeah, I really, once again, this week you expanded my mind internationally and connected a lot of dots, whether it be with War Hamster or
Alpha.
Alpha, thank you. Of just how, whether, I'm still spinning a lot on South America and Brazil and connections. I've been digging a lot in South America and have come up with a lot of parallels of Vietnam and South America.
A lot.
Those operations going on at the same time.
Yep.
And the Rockefellers, and I'm trying to track more of their movement down there. So I know I have to dive into that Rockefeller 600-page book at some point that you read. What is the name of it?
Thy Will Be Done.
Yeah, yeah. I'm hoping I can find an audio of that just because I drive so much for work and it's a little easier for me because usually when I get home at the end of the day, I'm conked out.
Right.
But I found another interesting parallel with the Rockefellers was that they have offshore oil rights outside of Vietnam, as well as Brazil and Guyana, which is very interesting.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Well, yeah, as well as the whole Phoenix torture stuff. The whole commodities of sugar and coffee. Brazil's #1 in coffee. Vietnam's #2 in coffee. I mean, it's just you find the pattern. You recognize
exactly
the pattern so much, and I'm just so grateful for you and everyone here for helping my mind grow. And I was always I love to travel and have goals to travel the world someday. And I was a bit apprehensive to do that because of crap we hear. And I'm not afraid anymore. And I'm so excited to now go and share and embrace and plant seeds and thrive in humanity and hopefully help them thrive. So thank you so very much.
You're welcome. And I do think knowing our real history when you travel helps you tremendously. I mean, I wish when I was on active duty and traveling all over the world, I wish I had known what I know now. Because I agree with you. Instead of being apprehensive about traveling, I feel like I'm much better able, both security wise and reaching out to local people. I feel like I'm in a much better place now because of what I know. I'm glad to have had all of you obviously here to share this journey, because it has been it's hard to explain when I do this research, because at one point you want to just immediately, get on a video and share some little tidbit. But I've always resisted that because I think it's much better to present it with all of the other information. I think that helps other people that may be new to finding us. And kind of the reason why we chose this format and why I choose the books to talk about that I do, because it gives us a wide swath of information about all these operations all over the world. And I do think that it makes it better for us, both personally and professionally, because I know a lot of people that travel professionally as well to foreign countries, and they're much more cognizant of their surroundings now, which is a good thing. Bridget, are you able to talk, or are you at the vet yet? She must be at the vet. She had to take her dog. Her dog was limping around. Let's get Miles up here.
Colonel, just in the meantime, while you try and get somebody else up, just on a lighter note, how are the gladiolas, and what's you got planned for your grandbaby's first birthday? And
I owe y'all a picture.
How are things there?
I owe y'all a picture. They're all blooming. So I will. I know, and Bridget has bugged me about that too. But as you said, we just had the grandbaby pretty much all day today, because unfortunately my daughter's getting ready to move to Atlanta, which really bums me out. So we're trying to see him as much as we can. His birthday is in like 10 days. My son-in-law is a professional caddy. So he belongs to a couple of the golf courses around here, one right by our house. And that's where they're going to have his first birthday. So the whole theme is golfing. And we're going to have it in the clubhouse there at the golf course. So I've already bought my presents, and I'm ready. I'm ready to go have a first birthday party. So, Miles, go ahead.
That sounds like a lot of fun. So the other day I was watching you with War Hamster, and I went, oh my God, I have to be honest and tell you that in full transparency, my last name is Whitehouse, and I've never been to Laos. It's a very common English name, and I'm not associated with those White Houses that you were talking about.
That's good to know. Otherwise, I'd think you were a spy.
Well, I wouldn't tell you.
Yeah, they're definitely up to no good. Go ahead, SR-71.
Thank you, Colonel. We won't hold that against you, Miles. Anyway, I'm just thinking about this now, and I can't believe it's been almost a year. Although we've been with you for longer than a year, Colonel.
Yes.
For your grandson, almost a year, 10 days away.
Yep.
And I remember all the hoopla before the child was born.
Yep.
So, congratulations.
It's hard to believe it's been a year. You know, for those of you who know, I was there in the room when he was born, and I babysat him for the from January all the way till the end of May because my daughter's a school teacher. We had him every day, and I'm just heartbroken they're moving. It is my only grandchild, so we will be on the road to. It's not actually in Atlanta; it's north of there. But yeah, I anticipate a lot more broadcasting from my command post in my RV in the future because it is going to be one of the worst things ever. But we'll get through it. Stellar, go ahead.
Good. I guess it's afternoon. So good afternoon, everybody. I missed you guys. Also, thank you for all of this stuff that you have shared because as everyone is saying, you know, you guys have opened my eyes to a lot of stuff too. As far as the Q, I guess I was following someone on Facebook. I didn't even know what Q was, but I looked at it as a puzzle, and he was showing confirmations on how they get confirmations. And so I didn't know what the Q movement was, but I was like learning how to do the like from the like how this one person used to confirm with the clock and the timestamps and double, you know, doing it back and forth, whatever. But it was really interesting and stuff, you know. And then, you know, I was more into like the financial and, you know, just trying to piece all that stuff together with the history and stuff, you know, that was my thing. And then, you know, these operations that are going on, not knowing that, I don't know, the paths crossed, you know, and just forever thankful for that. And what do you think of the stuff that's going on in, where is it? Is it Thailand and Cambodia and the monks with the drugs and stuff?
It is very interesting, isn't it? It makes you realize that those operations didn't ever stop. I guess my only question is who's controlling them. Is it still the CIA networks? Because as we've talked, and I mentioned just the other day, when you read Doug Valentine's information, there was a lot of CIA officers that retired in that area. They're still all over there. The banks that were laundering the money, they're still all over there. Obviously, they don't have the BCCI branches anymore, but that network is still there. And there's a lot of exposure going on right now of that. And I don't think it's coincidental as they're taking down those networks here. Because obviously one of the largest consumptions for them is the United States and Europe. And I believe the dismantling of those networks inside the United States, which we read about literally every day, is having some exposure over in that area as well, because I don't know percentages wise, but there is still a lot of it being produced over there. SR71, go ahead. SR.
Sorry, Colonel. I thought I hit the mic and I had not. However, this whole deal with the monks, when I saw that, the first thing that came to mind was how they have already infiltrated every religious organization and even created their own.
Yep.
So I looked at it from the standpoint of there are no safe zones.
Yeah, that's a good way of saying it. I agree with that.
It just reminded me of like how like we've talked about Operation Gladio, and like you had mentioned, like the Catholic Church or the Vatican or whatever, how they funded some things, but the CIA, is like drugs are always involved, and I'm like, oh, now the monks are all stoned or wasted or whatever, and they've got guns and all this other stuff. There is really nothing that is sacred anymore, is there?
Well, remember that it was in Tibet that they took the monks and everyday Tibetans and trained them how to be terrorists. There is nothing sacred to these people. Those are the people that they flew into Colorado and to that abandoned World War II base and trained them basically how to assassinate people, how to kidnap people, hold them for ransom, how to torture them and turn in other people, and then flew them back out of Colorado back into Tibet to launch operations against the Chinese. So yeah, there's nothing off limits for these people. Miles, go ahead.
A little piece of trivia for the origins of surnames. So my last name mostly are mariners and fishermen. And what they used to do is paint their houses white. So when they were coming back to the fishing village with their spyglass, they could see that their house was still there. And I traced my surname back to Plymouth, England. And I was just wondering, Colonel, now, are you going to have really good air conditioning on your mobile command center? Oh, I'm not supposed to bring that up anymore. Sorry.
Sure you can. It's all fixed. My husband fixed it all.
Oh, that's good, because you're going to need it from that mobile command center.
I know, especially in hot Georgia. Martha, go ahead.
I just want to tell everybody that the fire that was in Area 51 a little over a week ago was actually in a mountain range where my family, we used to go over and go to the spring over there. It was called Johnny's Water. And we had to quit going there because it became so radioactive that it was dangerous. And they never told anybody when this fire was going on. And I don't know who all is downwind of the smoke that was there, but I presume Bridget or her family in Lincoln County was downwind of that. I know anyone in Rachel was. And I've spoken with George from Dreamland Resort. They're going to go to the governor of Nevada and present that to them. I'm quite sure that if anything is done, they'll say, oh, but we cleaned that up, or that never happened, something on that order, but it did. And we used Geiger counters. So it's not like we just listened to somebody and believed it. The place was very radioactive. And some of that radioactivity lasts for thousands of years. And it's really, really damaging in smoke. So I just wanted to make sure that anyone that's downwind of that is aware and makes their families aware.
Thank you. Big vibes, go ahead. Big vibes? Are you there? We can't hear you if you're there. SR71, can you drop him down and bring him back up?
Yeah, hello. Can
Oh.
you hear me now?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for the privilege to speak. I've been up in here for a minute from when it started, and I want to appreciate you for the informations and the knowledge I've been gathering. It's been a minute, and especially from the Operation Gladio. But I'll be a little bit selfish tonight. I want to ask something that particularly concerns me. I don't know if you've been able to do deep dive on the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, because there's been a lot of rumor that he's a CIA agent and all that, but it's not been really proven. So I don't know if you have anything on him. I'll really be happy to get another nitty-gritty of who he really is and what he is about.
So
Thank you very much.
sure. There are a lot of allegations that he is controlled by Western influences, not just the CIA. And I have read several articles that all point in that same direction. Obviously, that has been a contested hotspot for a very long time. Because of where it's located. And that, based on past patterns, leads credence to the fact that it's true that he is controlled. So I have not done a deep dive into that country yet, but I just took a note and I will do that. Because I have come across many operations that have been launched out of that area in cross-border operations that I've actually looked into. So I will definitely put that on my to-do list. Thank you for bringing it up. Stellar, go ahead.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you very much. Lastly, if you have a minute.
Sure.
I want to know if in the 1990s, the operations that were conducted on the behest of the Shell in the south of Nigeria, would they be ascribed to Operation Gladio operations or something like that?
So you're talking about Shell Oil?
Yes, and the mayhem and the operations that were conducted in those 1990s and the early 90s, could they be part of Operation Gladios and all that?
Yes, they definitely could. As a matter of fact, the 1990s saw a lot of those operations in Africa. A lot of them. I mean, obviously, the 80s, we were in Angola and several other countries over there. And Dutch Royal Shell, Standard Oil with the Rockefellers, and British Petroleum all kind of fight each other in a gentleman's way for exploiting those resources. So yes, that's a huge possibility.
Oh, thank you so much. I really
Sure.
appreciate the privilege and response to. I hope to be around when you finish the deep dive and get to know what you come up with.
Sure. And I will make sure that I post, just, turn on your notifications and I'll make sure that I post that that's going to be the subject. So we'll get to it. Thank you. Stellar, go ahead.
Thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you. Stellar, go ahead.
Hi, so I was up at Mount Charleston when that fire that the lady was talking about happened, and yes, it was on the test site. It did not come into the valley at all. As far as the I believe that the area that she's talking about where that pond is and stuff, it's also attached to, there's a fish that's a prehistoric fish. Imagine that. And it seems to only like certain areas, and there's a couple of water areas within these parts that have this certain fish in it and stuff like that, and it's a prehistoric one. And I guess they had other areas where people would be able to go into the water and stuff like that, but it was ruining the environment for them, so they wanted to keep them around, and so they made it off limits to people. So I just wanted to say that. And yeah, the smoke went way north of us. It did go over, it looked like more towards Lincoln County and stuff like that, but it was gone right away because we started getting rain.
Martha, go ahead.
I just wanted to tell Stellar that fish story is a ginormous lie. All you have to do is look at the things surrounding it. Razor wire, there's facial recognition software. There are so many things there to spy on you. It has nothing to do with the fish.
Well, there is a fish that truly is, and there's a tube that goes through, and it goes from farther north that does come down. I don't remember which lake it's from.
The pupfish.
But that is a true thing and stuff like that. And so, again, it's within this ecosystem underground and stuff like that. My father worked at the test site. He controlled, there's not a whole lot. I mean, there was many, many years ago and stuff like that, but that's not the reason they're doing that. There is that fish, and there's the aquifer, that huge big aquifer underneath that they want none of us to have anything to do with, that is not attached and is not polluted from radiation from the underground tests. That I know for a fact. But it's the aquifer and the cartel in Nevada, and how they do not want us having our natural resources of water, and they've taken it all away. It is a true thing. It's the water they don't want us having access to.
Colonel, I don't mean to break in, but I see 8-track down there. I want to talk to him if he can take a mic real quick.
Yeah, go ahead and take over my show, Miles. I love 8-track. We'll definitely bring him up. Martha, if you want to respond. Stellar, I don't know if you remember Martha, but Martha is the lady whose ranch was taken away. Her family's from out there, and she grew up there. Her grandfather is the one that was mining, and his mine was shut down. So she actually used to live out there and is very familiar with that area. I just wanted to let you know that part. But Martha, go ahead.
The place that she's describing, it may not be the same one. She might be describing lower down in the aquifer system, but the place that I'm speaking of is in Amargosa Valley. It was the one that I told you, when there is an earthquake in other parts of the world, the water comes bubbling up and sloshing around. If you were in that water, it would kill you. And they have never found the bottom to that water. There's a lot more going on.
I was talking about the other one. I'm sorry. Yes. I'm talking about the other one. Sorry, I apologize.
Oh no, that's okay. I was up there, but that all came from farther north. The mountain range I'm talking about is the Cowich Mountains, where the Gothic fire was, and I think that smoke went to Rachel. Heavily in Rachel, so I presume it went to Kelly Andy and those areas, that because it usually does. I don't know, but I do know that it was
very, very thick. Because of what you're saying, do you think that those things that they closed in Alamo and stuff like that, remember they had those water springs and they closed those down probably about 40 or 50 years ago? Do you think that was because of radiation?
It could be, yes, because they irradiated the whole aquifer system. They actually let bombs off on the aquifers, below and right above the aquifers, where it was impossible not to contaminate the water. So imagine, the Nevada aquifer system. It's really big.
That makes a lot of sense because about 40 years ago, they started blocking off all the natural springs up towards Alamo. And you know how that hugs up along the test site area and that ranges on the, I guess it's the eastern side and stuff. And they blocked all of those natural springs up.
Miles, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know if 8-Track's got a mic. I wanted to ask him if he knows who Jim Lee is. I know that 8-Track's talked about this stuff before because he's been following the weather for a long time. Jim Lee did a show last night, maybe it was a couple nights ago, but he was talking, HAARP's been on for like 3 days, guys. And you can track HAARP. You don't really want to listen to it. It'll drive you crazy. But you can listen to it to know that it's on. And I want to ask him if he knows who Jim Lee is and what he thinks about him. Because this guy's been, like telling people, stop paying attention to, these people that are trying to gaslight you and scare you about weather modification. He said the only evidence he's ever had is that lasers can do it. This NexRad and Doppler radar doesn't have enough power to affect the atmosphere. There's no proof that it does. So I don't know if 8-Track wants to talk about it.
All right. Well, I gave him a mic. If he wants to come up, he's more than welcome to do that. He may just be listening. Illini, what have you been up to? I haven't seen you in a while.
Hey, Colonel. Nothing too much. I was listening to Leslie, I think McAdoo Gordon. She was one of the lawyers in some of the January 6th cases. They were doing a space on JFK, and they're finally starting to realize that there was a lot of problems with the chain of custody and exactly what happened to the autopsy there. I heard the very end of a conversation that seemed to be about the nuclear tests. I did just want to confirm that this is just the Nevada test range, right? Because that should be the only place where we did nuclear tests besides the original, 1945 tests in New Mexico.
Martha?
Yes, it is the Nevada test site, but you have to remember that radiation does not have a boundary. It doesn't care where their lines are, and the jet stream goes through. We went over this before.
Correct.
It used to catch the jet stream and go all the way over to the east coast of the United States. And I think that basically our whole country has been contaminated in one form or another. But the biggest issue is they are still contaminating people, and they are not telling them. And that really, really pisses me off.
And rightfully so, because it happened to your family.
I think that they're doing it through those microwaves, because if you watch the government websites for that, and that might be the HAARP one, you can see where they're powered up, and they have they're using the 3D towers and stuff, because my dad used to always tell me to stay really far away from the satellite dishes, and he used to show me where they were all over town. They've all been replaced by cell towers.
That's a different form of radiation, though, than ionizing radiation. If you're down, okay, number one, there were issues with people downwind of the nuclear tests in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, and Kennedy ultimately had to put a stop to it because...
And all the way through the 90s, my dad used to control the nuclear weapons testing at the Nevada test site from 1965 all the way through till the very end, and they're still doing tests, just on a much smaller scale now.
Sure. They were doing them underground after 63, and yes, we had to keep doing that until they did the total test. There was another treaty that we signed in the 90s, but we stopped doing them above ground, where the fission products would go downwind. So, it's my understanding that the two biggest things of concern are cesium-131 and strontium-90, and they've got a 28 to 30 year half-life. So we've gone through at least two cycles of of half-lives on them, and the radiation has decayed to 1/4 of what it was in the early 60s.
Okay. Anybody else got anything? Southern, go ahead. Haven't seen you in a while either.
I know. I've been working on our new division in my company and been dealing with tech, web, and all that fun stuff that I'm not skilled at. So it's been painful, but necessary to grow my company. But I have missed being on these calls, and I miss your voice. But I'm going to ask a different kind of question. I've been really digging deep into the Fed, trying to understand this ungainly power. And I keep ending up in England. So I just feel like if we could get our interest rates down a little bit, this would help build out more industrial opportunity back in our country. But they're holding firm, and their money, they're just stacking money, and the benefactors have been foreign banks. And they're saying, oh, we're doing that on a global level so it doesn't backfire on the U.S. My question is, I don't believe that. What are your thoughts?
So they're not doing it on a global level. The majority of the countries around the world have already lowered their interest rates by quite a bit, actually. So he's lying. There's so many things. I mean, obviously, we should not have a Fed. We've talked about that. The fact that the taxpayer is funding the renovation of a building that we don't even own, because we don't own the Fed, it is a private bank, is very disturbing on a number of levels. The disastrous for the Fed, Trump visit to the Fed was absolutely hilarious to me. And again, it comes back to the brass tacks. You have someone that on the surface, I'm not even going to talk about the fact that I think the entire thing's a money laundering opportunity, but on the face of it, you have a guy that is supposed to be in charge of managing inflation and unemployment that can't manage a construction project. And it's ludicrous. And I do think that most people get that. Most everyone who owns a home has done a renovation project, obviously on a much smaller scale. But at some point, when the contractor has overran their original budget, proportionately, you're still talking like $100,000. Would you still keep that contractor around? No, you would not. There's something much bigger going on. And I really like the point that Trump made where he's talking about the fact that another thing that no one's even talking about right now is so they said in the main building, they were saying that they needed more space. I have no idea why, because they shouldn't have the number of employees they have there to begin with, and computer systems have gotten smaller. So if you need more space, anybody, and I do have a bachelor's degree in construction management, so I'm qualified to talk about this. Every person in the United States knows that if you want to expand space, you put another floor on top of the existing building at a fraction of the cost of building out a basement of an existing building. And Trump made sure he exposed that. He talked about them actually adding a basement floor to the Fed. Well, why would you do that? That is like even digging out if you have like a 6-foot low ceiling in a basement, that's like tens and tens, if not $100,000 to go in there, because you basically have to build a new foundation. You have to support the existing structure. It is monumental to do something like that. And he talked about that because the grade of the land there, because there is a water table, made putting a basement completely not feasible. And again, I think the entire thing, which he exposed by going over there, is a money laundering activity, because there's no way that just simply adding space to an existing building, that anybody sitting at a table with architect plans wouldn't go, what the heck? I think they thought that they were going to be able to do it under the radar, and not, because obviously if you're adding a floor to an existing building, everybody's going to scratch their head and go, what do you need all that extra space for? Why don't you just go rent a building that's already there, like the old USAID building, or something of that nature. But instead, they were trying to hide what they were doing. So SR-71, go ahead.
Thank you, Colonel, and I agree. I believe it's a money laundering operation. And Trump also exposed the fact that, we're going from 2.5 billion to 3.1 billion. And that's a different building. Okay, one that's already there, but a different building added to this monstrosity. The other thing I'll throw in, I don't know how many people have been paying attention to China hacks and what's going on with Microsoft. But if you listen very carefully to what's happening here, the answer is everybody that uses Microsoft itself for what's going on in their servers doesn't have the problem. It's only those people who have bought SharePoint, installed it on their own servers, and have the problem. And they've known about this for quite some time. So when you hear China hack, and what they got, and then you don't get any information back about, well, what company did they get? Whose names did they get? How are we doing this? Private industry has to notify you if any of your personal data has been compromised. I have heard of no such thing at this point. So I tend to dismiss it all. But if anybody else has something to add to that, please let me know. Thank you, Colonel.
Sure. 8-Track, go ahead.
Hey, Colonel, can you hear me?
I can hear you. How are you?
How you doing?
I'm great.
I was cooking and I heard my name and I heard harp. So it was like the bat signal. I had to see what's going on.
So, Miles, what was the name of the guy you wanted 8-Track to ask if he knew?
8-Track, first of all, I love watching your show. You're doing a great job. Great guests, especially sitting out at the picnic table, interviewing people. I mean, you got to watch out for those little dogs barking, though.
Yeah, they pulled the truck up right in the middle of the interview, and the people got out and left their puppies in the truck.
I know. Look, it's a natural thing, so I don't mind stuff like that. I'm at an RV park, and I have my own picnic table. Maybe I'll start interviewing people here. But do you know who Jim Lee is?
Yeah.
Okay, do you follow his website?
Climate Viewer?
Yeah.
It's one of the tools in my arsenal for sure.
Okay, good. Where do you think he's coming from as far as some of the stuff that you talk about? You think he's on the same page, or he's...
Well, I don't want to speak directly about Jim. I don't follow him directly. I know you were talking about HARP earlier.
Yeah, it's been on for 3 days.
Yeah, it's my humble opinion that HARP is a psyop and misdirection. First of all, HARP is a program, right? And it's a specific field of antennas in Alaska. That's what HARP means, right? When you're talking about the technology, it has evolved so much since then. Okay, we're talking about an ionospheric heater. They had a massive array, football fields of antennas to accomplish this. That technology can fit in a small facility right now. And that technology, ionospheric heating, exists all over the world. I did hear you mention NextRad, and it is my humble opinion, I can't prove any of this, right? But after 15 years of watching NextRad, it's my humble opinion that NextRad 100% can control the weather, wind, cyclones, all of it. And all you have to do is just start watching the radar every day, every time there's a storm, and you can see it clearly. I don't know if you saw the weather special I did on my channel, and we simulcasted it on Dave's channel, News Treason, but I highly recommend you go back and watch it. It's a little over 2 hours, and I cover all the basics from 15 years of studying this stuff, and it's not going to be possible to cover it right now. I just wanted to pop in because I heard the Colonel's voice, but I do think that NextRad is absolutely involved. I think that HARP-like technologies and other forms of energy, directed energy, are used, and they're all over the world, and it makes it very trivial to create the Truman Show that we live in. And I know those are strong words, but if you watch the special, and I encourage anyone listening to go watch it, and at the end of 2 hours, if you still think I'm crazy, cool, but I don't think you will. I don't.
Yeah, I watched it. I watched it twice. Is that good? So,
yeah, there you go.
All right, a lot of things I watched twice. So, but Jim's going to push back on you unless they are hiding free energy. They're not
like I said, I don't want to comment on anybody specifically. There are a lot of people who have been doing this. I've only started, literally that show 2 weeks ago, which was coincidentally aired as the Texas floods were happening, which is nothing more than an act of God. We are not feds, but I've never talked about this stuff before because the people that I've followed over the last almost 2 decades, the ones who got a little too close to the truth started disappearing. So I never even talked about it. I barely tweeted about it. I think I did, a few years ago when I was still in Anon, a couple things, but it's not a topic that they like you to talk about. But the day after we published that and the floods happened in Texas, I woke up to General Flynn and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lee Zeldin and everybody talking about weather modification. So I do believe it's something that needs to be talked about. I do believe there are a lot of people high level in the movement. I don't know if Jim's one of them. Like I said, I don't follow him, who report on this stuff, who have learned over the years what they can and can't say. Maybe they've been told, but I don't trust a lot of people. It's taken me 15 years to find the handful that I did trust online, and I learned from them, and that's what I present in that special. And those techniques anyone can do after watching that show. You can watch how the clouds are formed. You can watch how the clouds are directed, how the vortices are spun up. It happens every day, everywhere on planet Earth. And if you get a good radar app and satellite app, you can watch it for yourself. So he may push back, but anyone who talks about HARP all the time, to me, that is the oldest CIA PSYOP. The original HARP rings, if anyone used to study weather, YouTube was full of HARP rings. And you can see right now, if you pull up any of them, it's literally just a NextRad. Every HARP ring's epicenter is a NextRad. And that's something you can get from the Climate Viewer site, is you can see locations of NextRads. There is a map of those. So you can easily verify that HARP rings was a PSYOP. It was a scam. It was misdirection. It was look here, not there. Because when you see the Doppler radars, not just at your airport, but you've been driving down a road in Iowa and looked and seen one in the middle of a cornfield. They're all over planet Earth, and they are, in my humble opinion, integral in the weather grid that controls this little snow globe we live in. This snow sphere we live in. Sorry, I want to be clear.
Thanks for taking a mic. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for asking. And Colonel, if you're free on Thursday, I want you to come on my show.
Thursday, okay. Let me check my count. At what time?
I go live at 1:30 Pacific, and I'm still airing some of those picnic table interviews that he mentioned. And I like to do a live before that and go over some news. And I thought you'd be perfect for this week.
Awesome. So is that 4:30 my time? I'm on the East Coast. Yeah. All right. Well, we can definitely reschedule our 4 o'clock here, and I would love to come on your show.
Amazing. And I hate to jump in and run, but I am prepping for the Friday night huddle, or as people call it, the cuddle. Yeah. And I've got to get that finished. But love you guys, and good to see you, Colonel.
Thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Southern, go ahead.
Kind of looking at the near future, Colonel, with all this from Tulsi Gabbard laying a lot of this subterfuge at the feet of Obama, not Hillary, which I found interesting. How do you see this playing out over time?
Well, that's a big question. I think there is a roadmap that they're following, and I believe that roadmap is going to get us to about the 2-year time frame, so that that leaves the last 2 years for the cleanup operations. And just because they're focusing on um, Obama and the most recent, going backwards, the 2016 election, um, you can't isolate Hillary from any of it because she's directly tied to it. So I think one of the things that we don't like to have right now is patience, because we already know all of this. As Dwayne and Brian like to kid, I'm sitting at the finish line with Operation Gladio, waiting for everybody else to figure out the nefarious things that we've been doing along those lines. I think that's true with collectively all of us on the Spygate, because obviously we've all read Brian Cates' exposés and all of the others. There's lots of them. Real clear politics, or real clear, whatever that one is. There's been a lot of people in that arena that has done a lot of really good work. All of us in this audience already know what's going to come out of all of this. Now, do we know all of the details? No, because again, a lot of it was classified. But we know where it ends up. We know that the guilty parties have to be held accountable, or they just regroup and they come back again. And I think this is our one shot at accountability. But no one is going to be outside of their field of vision. So one of the most fascinating things that, again, and this is one of the things about having classified information, about the health issues with Hillary. They were going to do with Hillary. Everybody says the 16-year plan was 8 years of Obama and 8 years of Hillary. Well, if Hillary was on tranquilizers, who do you think was going to be running her government? That same cast of characters. I think they realized after Trump beat Hillary that she was no longer going. So they just got another dummy to sit in the chair so they could autopin everything. And I think all of that information is going to come out, but there's no way that Hillary, if she was as bad off as everyone is now finding out, and that they were going to, that she was actually going to be in control of anything. She was going to be as controlled as we now know Biden was. So I've got my seatbelt on. I love the exposure. The accountability has to come. I love the fact that they created the strike force as opposed to a special counsel. We know every single time a special counsel has ever been set up, that it was used to hide the information, not discover information. So that to me was a clear sign. This is going to be different. So I do anticipate accountability. Martha, go ahead.
I'd like to address, oh gosh, what was his name? A-Track, who I agree with completely. But I would like to add that with the chemtrails, they are charged particles in the atmosphere, and there are charged particles and vortexes underneath the ground. And when you see a storm stop, they will steer it and they will stop. And all of a sudden, it just blows up like no tomorrow. It is sitting on top of a vortex. And you have these different charges affecting each other. And people don't look into that too much, but my contention is these guys know exactly what they are doing, and they are tracking where all of the vortexes are. And being from Texas, I would think, since so many storms originate there, if you followed some rainbows, you will find where they originate and where they go and where they stop. It's pretty spectacular, but they try to keep that well hidden. And I'd love to see you go into that research.
All right, SR71.
Thank you, Colonel. You mentioned Hillary Clinton here, and I sort of have a different take on it with her tranquilizer use and all this other stuff that they're hollering and screaming about. I'm thinking that when it comes to we need to put her in the hot seat, she's going to get the same treatment that Biden got. He's an old fool. He has no idea what he's doing. He was this, he was that. He didn't know. That's what bothers me most about this.
It bothers me too. Miles, go ahead.
Yeah, with all her medical problems, I hope she's still alive so we can bring her on the stand. I just want to tell the audience that, and Colonel, this was not planned. I didn't talk to 8-Track ahead of time, so he would come up here and ask you to be on the show. Just want that, that just happened organically. But yesterday was gold. I loved watching Powell. If you looked at his body language standing next to Trump, it looked like Trump was the principal. And
it did.
Powell is going to have to go into detention.
It did.
You noticed that body language?
Did, yes.
Yeah, I loved it. Thanks, Colonel.
Sure. Southern, go ahead.
I just want to add to it. I love the first reporter's question. When a project goes over the price point, what do you do to that project manager? They're fired. You're fired. I loved it. And Powell's like, this little body twist. I loved it. Looks down. But yeah, he looked like a little kid wearing a suit too big, got to finally wear a hard hat, and was clueless about what was going on. But the bottom line is, getting back to the way Tulsi Gabbard is managing this is brilliant, because it's going to bring out all the levels, and by releasing the documents, we can keep them alive. Keep Tulsi safe, keep Trump safe, keep them safe, because we have the information. We already knew this. Now we can see proof.
Right.
We can see proof. And that's what I'm happy about. I do not know what the outcome or if anything's really going to happen out of this, but I hope it wakes up America. And I love the timing of it before the midterms, because there's going to be more. And the Democrats are going to look really bad in the midterms. And we got to do well in the midterms. So this I'm excited about.
Yeah, they don't really have much to run on, except for they like illegals. They only visit illegals when they're picked up by ICE. They're not interested in their constituents. And their pushback on saving us money by closing USAID. The only thing that I wish had happened was a lot of the nefarious things that USAID were doing that we've exposed. I wish they had went into that a lot more, because I do think that's a golden opportunity to make America understand what has happened, because we didn't there. To me, there wasn't enough exposure on the USAID. I mean, obviously, we talked about them almost daily for the last 2 years, because they've had their hands in so many nefarious things. I do wish that would have gotten a lot more exposure. But obviously, I'm glad it's gone. So, yeah, I do. And also, one of the interesting things is the people that have I don't know if they're ignorant or if it's part of an operation, but there's a lot of people questioning whether John Radcliffe is legit over at the CIA. And their one and only hole in the tent is that this should have all came out when he was the DNI, but they never look at who was sitting on all of the information at the time, which was Gina Haspel, who was the station chief in London and part of that actual plan to sabotage. So he can only release information that he is given. They weren't going to give him any information to release. So the brilliance of taking the guy who knew all of the information they were sitting on and putting him now over at the CIA director so that he can actually get that information and hand it off to Tulsi Gabbard. So I think that the entire team that has been put in place is brilliant on so many fronts, because he knows what he asked for and was stymied on getting it, and now he's sitting on it and handing it over. So kudos to all of them.
If I could just interject here, one thing that John Ratcliffe did in 2020 as Trump was going out of office is that he found, or in his people found, handwritten notes from John Brennan that talked about that meeting that happened in July of 2016. 48 hours later, we had Operation Hurricane, and it set up that meeting because Brennan was in there. Loretta Lynch, to me, is the weak link. I think they can talk to her and get what they need. Remember, she was the sacrificial lamb in losing her job after the tarmac situation where Bill Clinton went into her plane when Hillary was running for president. So she fell on her sword and resigned. I think she's the weak link. I think they can get her to testify and keep moving through.
Yeah. Bridget, go ahead. Bridget? I can't hear you. Let me take her down. Bring her back up. Okay. Let's try that again.
So, Colonel, the people that are running this platform, should they be fired?
They should. I've never been an administrator on anyone else's, obviously. I have co-hosted a few, and the ones that I am in don't have near the problems that we do, but whatever. Bridget, go ahead.
Okay.
There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, I can hear you.
Well, I don't think we've heard the last of USAID. They were quick to shutter it. And Data Republican has done a great job, and we've done an incredible job at exposing all the connections. But I think later on, they're going to tie this all with a big red bow. And in the prosecution of the crimes, the Brennan, Comey, et cetera, I think then it will become exposed, and that's the reason why they shuttered it and moved on. But it's kind of like earmarking it for later, because as they expose their crimes, it's going to show the money funneling. And the money funneling, USAID was a major, major hub.
Yep.
Hey guys, not too long, a couple hours ago, Trump came out, massive victory. A judge sided with President Trump and dismissed all the lawsuits challenging the dismantling of USAID. They can completely gut the entire corporation legally now.
Yeah. So, yeah, I hope you're right, Bridget, because I think that's where the Not that all of this other stuff, I mean, there's just so much going on. It's all important. And I just think that the breadth of that operation has to be exposed. And
I think the smoking gun will lie there, my
yeah,
opinion. But just an opinion at this point.
yeah, I agree. Because the amount of money and the chaos and death and torture and everything else that that organization oversaw is just it's mind blowing. It's literally mind blowing. SR-71, go ahead.
Thank you, Colonel. And thank you for that beautiful piece of news, because I think now Mike Benz is going to hit the roof. Thank you so much.
Yeah, well, what's going to happen to our imperialism? We won't be able to shape the world anymore. Anyway, yeah, crazy stuff. I don't know of any sane person that would be melancholy about the dismantling of USAID. How will these globalists be able to do all of their exploitation of people and resources? You know, we may have to pay more for a pencil. Obviously, I'm being facetious. So anyway, you guys over on Rumble are cracking me up. All right, Tara's over there having a storm, talking about filling his diaper, talking about Powell, and yeah. So anyway, Miles, go ahead.
Well, I love the soft disclosure on a lot of the stuff. I think, for the average person, we have to kind of, build them up for what is probably going to happen, because they have no idea what we talk about. But I'm just glad that whoever is running this continually puts the spotlight on Minnesota. I mean, it's almost cartoon land here as far as what the Marxists and socialists or whatever these people are. I mean, it's all just criminal activity, and they keep shining the spotlight on Minnesota. Keep it up, guys. I love it.
Yeah, Minnesota's got their fingers in a lot of different pies, that's for sure.
Yeah, it just came out that now we have a $6 billion deficit, and we had a $18 billion surplus because of I would say the Fed money, the COVID money, and it just disappeared. Now, we know where some of it went. $250 million went to feed the school children that they never got any lunches.
So they're laundering money is what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Yep. All right, guys. I'm going to call it a day, and thanks for being here. And we will start a new book on Monday. I'm still trying to decide which book that is. I'm in the middle of reading 2 of them, neither one of which are the ones that I had you guys vote on. So there might be a surprise on Monday. I'm just going to warn you. All right. What?
I love it. I think, keeping us on our toes.
Yep.
Colonel, don't you have a show with the Cates brothers this weekend too, please?
I do. So let me look that up. I'm really looking forward to that. That ought to be I love those too. Let me go back in my messages. Hold on just a second. I think we agreed on a time. Okay, so we are going to do it at 3 p.m. East Coast time, and I will get Bridget, my handy dandy graphics person, to do us a little thumbnail for the Cates brothers and myself. And I'm going to tell you guys up front, it's going to be total chaos. The three of us together is total chaos. My sisters laugh at us on Wednesday night. My husband comes home and tells me he has a headache. So it should be fun. And if you guys like it, I'm going to try to do that on a more regular basis because I think both of those guys bring something really awesome to the table. The only problem with that is I have to feed them afterwards. So that was kind of the deal. Miles, go ahead.
Well, hopefully you'll pick the book. Hopefully you'll pick the book that I voted on. But if you do surprise us with a third option, please don't do Dr. Seuss.
I'm not going to do Dr. Seuss. I can definitely promise you that. Although I do have a lot of them for my grandbaby sitting in his little room in the back of the house for when he's ready. But no, we will not do Dr. Seuss. Not unless I found one that I thought was somehow connected. And who knows? They could be.
Research Dr. Seuss.
I have. I just don't find anything in the books. But anyway. All right, guys. Again, thank you for being here. I will be back on Monday, and we have the Cates Brothers on 3 p.m. East Coast time on Sunday. Hopefully, we will see you all there. And I do believe that we're going to simulcast it so that you guys could ask them questions. But we're still working out the details there. It may just be over on Rumble. We're like I said, we're still working out the details. So anyway, take care. See you on Sunday and back at 4 p.m. on Monday. Take care. Have a nice weekend. All right, guys. See ya. See ya, Tara. Thank you, Cheryl, for being here. Donnie Vision, all of you guys. Unicorn. Love that name. I used to collect unicorns. You guys take care.